Oh, I think we're good. I see my slides. I see a little button that says live. And let me get confirmation from somebody out there. Let's see here. Okay, good. I got confirmation. We're live, folks. This is so exciting. Hello, welcome. Thank you so much for bearing with me while I figure this out. This is my first time doing this live from my guest room, and I'm really excited that we're all here today. So we are going to talk about Ancestry Library Edition and how you can access it from home. First of all, what I am really interested in is hearing about what your experiences are with genealogy. So if you could go ahead and type something in the chat box, like, have you been doing genealogy for a while? Is this something that's new for you? Whatever you want to go ahead and indicate in there where your experience level is, I want to know about that. I am also asking for you to please go ahead and type in any questions that you might have, either from the get-go or as we go along and talk. Please go ahead and just type your questions into the chat box. I will be answering questions at the end of the event, only because it's really easy for me to go off into a tangent, so it would be much more simple, or for me and for you, if you just go ahead and type in your questions. I'll answer them at the end. And I am so happy that you guys are here with me today. This is exciting. This is a new thing for me, and we'll see how it goes. So I'm playing also with some software, so I'm going to be clicking on some stuff, and hopefully, let's see here. Hey, how's everybody doing today? I'm so happy to see you. I have a special guest with me today. Really quick, I just want to show you. Ruby, my cat's here with me, so say hi, everybody. She's very uninterested in you. That's okay. I don't mind. There we are. I am Amy. I'm the Assistant Branch Manager at the main library. I'm looking at myself at the screen and thinking, oh my goodness, this is real. Okay, so the format of today's show, we're going to do 35 minutes of presentation where I'll be showing you the database, followed by 10 minutes of questions and answers. Again, feel free to type in your questions as we go along. I will be taking a look afterwards, mostly because, like I mentioned, I do go off on tangents and I want to make sure we stick to the 35 minutes. And also because there's a bit of lag time between me talking now and what you're hearing, like about a good 30 seconds to a minute. And that can get confusing really quick, so it'd be easier if just we do the questions and answers at the end instead of during the presentation. And we have got a lot of material to cover today. So today is, as the title indicated, Infonugget. We're just taking a quick look how to get into Ancestry Library Edition. A very brief overview, and I'll give you a quick little tour of what's inside the database. This is not a full-on introduction to genealogy, because that takes a heck of a lot more time than 30 minutes. We are also interested in hearing about what other sort of virtual programs that you want from us. So if you do want some more specific genealogy topics, please add them into the chat box and we'll go ahead and consider and maybe do something with that. If there's any other databases that you'd like an introduction to, please also go ahead and type those into the chat box too. And if you want something entirely different, we're all ears. Go ahead, type that in. Do know that we are trying to keep this to 30 to 45 minutes, so keep your suggestions reasonable. So let's go ahead and get started, and let's take a look at, we're going to start off by taking a look at the library's website. So to access Ancestry Library Edition, you have to do it from our website. You can't just type in ancestry.com because they're going to try to charge you. You have to start off at the library, SJCPLS.org. And one thing I do want to show you really quick here on our website, you will need to have your library card. And if your library card maybe hasn't been used for a while, if there's a potential it might not be active, you can go ahead and click where it says Get an Instant e-card, and you can sign up for a free library card with us if you're a St. Johns County resident. And once you get that instant e-card, be sure to write that number down because you will need it to access our stuff. Or if you already have your library card with you, just be sure to pull that out, type in the number, and you'll be typing in the numbers later on. One other thing I do want to show you on our website really quick Right here we have a listing of upcoming events. This is going to be all of our virtual programming that we've been working on. We have a whole lot of stuff lined up coming up throughout April and going into May. The 3 o'clock time period, Monday through Friday, is focused on adult programming. So if you're interested in any sort of adult stuff, 3 o'clock, Monday through Friday. So to get to the database, we're going to hover over where it says eLibrary, and then go over down to where it says Databases. Once you click on that, it will take a moment. And from here we have a very, very, very long list of online databases, like a lot of databases. They are in alphabetical order, so the one that you want is at the top of the screen, and it is Ancestry Library Edition. Now at this point, it is asking for you to type in your library card number. And you're typing it in with no spaces. And I have noticed recently, and I'm not sure what this is, but if you click on log in, it doesn't work. Instead, you type in your library card number and hit your enter key. That will get you into the database. So again, be careful when clicking on log in. It doesn't seem to be working. Instead, type in your number and then go ahead and hit enter to get to the database. Okay. So here we are inside Ancestry Library Edition. Again, this can only be accessed from home during the month of April. Normally it's something you can only access within library walls, but Ancestry.com has been very generous and they let library patrons now access it from home through the month of April. I have no idea if that's going to be extended beyond April. I haven't heard anything, but for now it is. There are some big differences between your personal subscription to Ancestry.com if you pay for one and the library version. The biggest differences are that you can't link documents to a personal tree from the library's subscription. That is something that you can do in your personal one, but not the library's one. However, in the library edition, you have full access to over 20 billion records, including the 3 billion records that are within World Explorer. That is not something normally you can get through the basic personal subscription to Ancestry.com. And here, this sort of goes over, like, if you were going to be paying for your own account, this kind of breaks down exactly what the costs would be. So for instance, if you were just going to buy your own US Discovery version, $189 for a 12-month period. That's a lot. The World Explorer, the one that contains some international records, $299 a year, or the All Access one, $389 a year for content that right now you can access for free, well, up to the World Explorer edition at the library. So with your library card, you get free access to something that's normally $299. And that is a service that we are absolutely happy to provide. So let's go ahead and get started and take a look at what we have in here. Let's see here, except for, wait, before we get started, there's a couple of things that I do want to warn you about. The first one is, you're going to find some really cool content on Ancestry Library Edition. What I need for you to be aware of is that what is on Ancestry Library Edition is not everything. This is when we talk about the metaphor of the iceberg. The tip of the iceberg, that is what the 30 million records on Ancestry.com are. They're just a portion of everything that's been digitized. There is a whole lot more of stuff that has never been digitized that you're not going to be able to find online. And there's a couple of reasons for that. Some things just haven't been digitized yet. They're still in musty boxes in the corner of an office somewhere, or maybe the records don't even exist anymore. Or maybe they're waiting to be digitized and they just haven't gotten it to it yet. There's the Civil War pension files that they've been working on forever, literally probably decades, for scanning, and there's so many of them, it's just taking a long time. So I need for you to realize that what you find on Ancestry.com is not going to be everything. There's a whole bunch more that you might have to write to an archive to get, or you might just have to wait a couple of years until it gets digitized and added. So what's highly important for you to realize as you're doing your research, and I'm putting up an example right now, is that your research is not multiple choice. When you get results, it's not like you only have like 5 different things to pick from. Don't try to fit your ancestors into the records that you're finding. There is always the possibility that your ancestors' records haven't been digitized yet. So it's very important that you pay very close attention to the details to make sure that what you are finding is who you are looking for. Okay, so another thing that I would like for you to go ahead and get started on before you even start doing your research is start filling out some forms. We've got some suggested recommended forms that you can access online, and Margaret, if you can put those links up now maybe. These are PDF interactive forms. You need to start typing in what it is that you know so you can figure out what you don't know, so you can go ahead and have a plan when you do your research. You can be clicking blind through Ancestry.com and just click on stuff and find things, but until you formalize it and sort of organize your research, a lot of what you find will have no context. So it's highly important that you get started by typing in or filling out what you know. And it's okay if you don't know a lot about your ancestors. Most people, and I'm using Henry Flagler as an example, for instance, I know his name, I know where he died, and I know who his spouse was. It's okay that I don't know anything else because that's what I'm going to be finding out. What we have here is a 6th generation pedigree chart. This is typically what you'll come across. It's your traditional pedigree chart. Another suggested one that I have is a 5 generation pedigree chart. I like this one because it is in portrait format and it's easy. If you print it out, it's good for your binders. Another one that I recommend is a family group record. This is where you fill out all the information about one family unit. And another one that I really like is the individual worksheet. These templates are fantastic because they help you figure out what it is that you need to know, what sort of information you need to look for, and get your brain thinking about some of the different resources that are out there that you can find. And Ancestry.com does have printable charts and forms always available on their website. It doesn't matter if you have a subscription or if you're going in through the library or wherever. This link is always available. You don't need a subscription in order to access it. This is stuff that you can print out from home, but if you don't have a printer at home, in the meantime, you can go ahead and use some of these PDFs that you can fill out. Let's see here. So some of the PDFs that I was mentioning is the 6th generation pedigree chart, this 5 generation pedigree chart, family group record, and individual worksheet. We should be having some links pop up in the chat box pretty soon where you can go ahead and access those yourself. Another thing that I do want to caution you about is that in your research, you will be finding other people's family trees that they've gone ahead and discovered. Be very careful when you're looking at other people's trees. For example, this first example that I have up here, it even mentions it's unsourced. What that means is you have no idea where this person got this information from. That's not good. The one underneath it indicates that there are 11 attached records. That's a good start. Take everything with a grain of salt. What you find in other people's trees are meant to be clues. You still need to go out and find your own supporting documentation. So now let's go ahead and take a look at some of the stuff in here. Let's see here. Okay, so we are back to this. So the big categories to be aware of, You have a search box. We'll get back to that in a second. Message boards. Message boards are a fantastic place to do any sort of surname searches. If you have somebody that has an unusual last name, you can take a look and see if anyone else has already done research on this family group. Or maybe they have a specific ancestor that you're looking for. One of my biggest brick walls is on my maternal grandmother's side, the Schwalm family. They're from a little tiny region in a country that doesn't exist anymore over in Europe, and I'm forever looking for records for them, but this is, like I said, one of my brick walls. So I'm always interested in seeing who might also be researching that family. Another thing to be aware of in here, the Learning Center, they have some fantastic built-in research aids. Basic things like getting started, how to look for census records, then when you get a little bit beyond the basics, all sorts of good lessons that are built into this. One of my favorite parts is right over here under Maps. You can go ahead and research different areas. So, for example, I live here in Florida. Most of my ancestry that I'm discovering is coming up from the New York region and also from Michigan and some in West Virginia. And these are areas that I have very little knowledge about, so it's helpful to me. Like when I'm going ahead and looking for Michigan research, first of all, this will tell me the different counties within Michigan, so I know where I need to be looking for some records. It also tells you what the county seat is, and those, if I ever have to write away for some records, I'll know that's probably where I'm going to be writing for. It gives me some information. We have like a Michigan research guide, family history research, vital records. It'll bring you over to a Ancestry.com wiki through RootsWeb that will give you further information on where you need to go to find some of your vital records, especially again if they're not available online. Let's see here. Probate information, county resources, land records. You can get a lot of information from a land record. This RootsWeb wiki is fantastic. It gives you the brief background of the different areas that you're researching in case you're not too familiar with them. So definitely play around with this map section where you can learn more about the regions where your ancestors were from. Another thing up here, charts and forms. This is something that I mentioned briefly earlier. They have a lot of free templates that you can go ahead and download and or print them out. What I also like, they have some census templates. One of the problems with a lot of the census records is sometimes you can't quite read the column headings. And this will go ahead and have a nice little template for you so you can read all the template headings. And if you want to fill in your own information, because sometimes the handwriting is very hard to decipher, and once you decipher it, you want to make sure you can remember it. So it's useful to sometimes write the information down into a template. And what we also have, new collections. Ancestry.com is constantly adding new information, new records that they've digitized. And this is a great place to find out what's new and what's been updated inside of their collection. So for example, I was looking at this earlier today, and I was super excited to see they have updated part of their Michigan collection for their death, divorce, and marriage records. I've got people in all those categories, and sometimes there's some information I still haven't been able to find, so it's worthwhile to periodically go back, check and see if any of those records have been updated, if there's any new stuff that's been added to it. So let's go back over to search, where they go ahead and they give us some pretty broad categories. You've got all categories, or if you wanted to search just census and voter lists, birth, marriage, death vital records, military service, immigration and travel, and the card catalog for the various collections inside Ancestry's Library Edition. Let's go ahead and just do all categories. This is a very, very basic search box. You can click down here to show more options where you can type in some more information that you might know about a person. I'm going to use Henry Flagler as my example, where I know his name is Henry and his last name is, his last name is Flagler. I don't know what year he was born. I know that he did live in St. Augustine. I do know he also lived in Palm Beach. That's kind of the extent of my knowledge. So I'm going to type in St. Augustine. And we've got here suggested St. Augustine, St. Johns County. That's the right one. So I'm going to click on that. If I knew for certain any of the other information, like what year he was here, I could type that in. Or I could add a family member. For instance, I know one of his daughter's name was Jenny. I know that one. But I found that sometimes putting less information is better. You don't want to restrict your searches too much because you might be excluding some records that didn't contain that information, so it might not turn up. So sometimes being a little vague with your initial searches is perfectly okay. And if you're not sure, you can kind of guess. So for example, maybe he was born in 1880 something or other. You can click here to put a range around what you typed in. So this would cover 1870 to 1890. But again, I'm not sure, so I'm going to leave this out altogether, and I'm taking the date out because I don't want to accidentally exclude anything. And then I'm going to click on search, and it will take a moment. And it will take another moment. Okay. So we have a whole bunch of results, 32,500 results. That's a lot of stuff. If we didn't want to go through all of that, or if we're getting too many immediate, obvious mishits, over here on the left, we can go ahead and change our search filters a little bit. Like we could be more specific about his first name. The location is broad. If we wanted to, we could bring it down to like a state and adjacent state level. This one is important because keep in mind state boundaries change over time. So for instance, what might have been in West Virginia today really was in Virginia a long time ago. So state and adjacent state boundaries you want to be a little bit flexible with. I can also specify here if I wanted to country results. So if I wanted to restrict it to just the United States, I could do that. But if I know I had somebody who was an immigrant ancestor, I might also want to take a look at some of the different country collections that are within here. So let's go ahead and take a look at some of the records that are coming up. So for instance, right here we've got the 1910 census. We've got a little snippet here on the right where it tells me Henry Flagler, his spouse was Mary Flagler. He was born about 1830 in New York, and in 1910 he was living in St. Augustine. I'm pretty confident this is our guy, but I'm going to take an even closer look. When I hover over it, it gives me a quick little preview, but I'm going to go ahead and click directly onto it. Now this right here is indexing in action, where for instance you have the name right here, but then in brackets you have a variation. And some of the spellings in here, like the street, I don't even know what to make of that. It's on Kring Street. I don't know where they got that from. It's supposed to be the Ponce de Leon Hotel, but whoever indexed this was having an interesting time trying to make out the letters on here. Oh, I love this. Occupation, builder of railroads. Nice. So I always suggest, this indexing is nice, but let's go ahead and click on the record itself, because indexing has its faults. Sometimes it's automated. Sometimes it's a person who is reading something who doesn't have context, so they don't know it's supposed to be Ponce de Leon Hotel. So they're going to be misspelling something. So here's the actual record from the 1910 census. Tools that we have here, we can go ahead and zoom in because this is super tiny writing, and we can go ahead and drag the image around so we can look a little bit closer. Here we go. I can actually read this. Okay, so here it says Henry Flagler. When I hover over his name, it gives me some index terms. Underneath it, Mary indicates it's his wife. Gives me a personal description. So he's a male. He's white. He's 80 years old. M3 indicates he's had 3 marriages. Number of years presently married. He's presently married 9 years to Mary. This is important information. It tells me that Henry was born in New York. His father was born in Michigan. And his mother was born in New York. So that type of information is what I would be writing down in my, whoops, wrong page. I like this one better. This is the type of information that I'd be writing down in the pedigree chart. So it told me his parents, while it didn't tell me his father's name, and it didn't tell me his father's date of birth, it told me his place of birth for his father was Michigan. So that's something I'm making note of. And similarly, for his mother, again, I don't have her name. I don't know have what year she was born, but I know she was born in New York. So later on, as I'm going through the records, I'm compiling all of these clues that I'm picking up that will be useful later on when I'm doing searches as I go further backwards. I lost where I was. Oh, here we go. And this tells me about Mary, his wife, was born in North Carolina. Her father was born in North Carolina, as was her mother, who was born in North Carolina. It gives us citizenship information. They both spoke English. And again, here we go. Henry Flagler's occupation, builder of railroads. And Mary, none. Wife of the builder of railroads. So it's extremely worthwhile to read the actual record itself, because what you will frequently find within the transcription is helpful to a point, but you also get things like Cohn's Ola Line Hotel on King Street. So you have to be very careful of that. You want to read the actual document itself. Oh, and one thing I did also want to show you guys really quick. The send your find home. Here, during this time period, when you can access this at home, that's okay. Under normal circumstances, if you're doing this within the library, you do have the option of emailing the document to yourself. So you can just click where it says send document. And we'll wait a moment, and you would type in your email address, and you would type it again to confirm it. And you could send yourself a link that you could access from home, where they give you a little, like a private storage area, where you can go home, pull up the records, and I think it lasts for about like 60 or 90 days that you'd be able to access it if you wanted to download it at home. But since you're able to do this now from home anyway, you can ignore that. This is for when life gets back to normal and you have to come into the library. This is what you would be doing. Another thing that I highly recommend is this printer friendly button right here. Ancestry.com is notoriously difficult to print from. You will frequently get stuff you don't need, or it'll print it so tiny that you can't read it. I personally love this printer friendly format where I can just go ahead and print out this clearly indexed page, mistakes and all, and I stick that in my binder. I will also print out the image itself, and let's click on this one more time because I want to show you some printing tips on this. I will also print out the image itself, and I'll put that in my binder as well. So to print from here, it's a little counterintuitive, but instead of printing, you're actually saving the image. And what I usually do is I save it to this computer, open it up in a different image viewer file that I might have, and then print it out from there. Because if you try to print it out from here, things will go crazy very quickly. It's much better to save the image, open it up in an image viewer that you might have, and then print it out from there. And oh my goodness, we're already getting towards the end of our time. Let me see if there's anything else really quick that I want to add in here before we go to our question and answer period. Let me back up a little bit to some of the other results. So what we also have in here is not just the censuses. We link out to different websites like Find a Grave. Find a Grave is a lot of fun. If you have time to spare, and by time I mean a couple of days, this is one of those websites where you can just keep going and going and going forever. It's run by a crew of industrious cemetery volunteers who go around and take pictures of gravestones, and you can look up some of your ancestors' gravestones on there. Newspapers.com, the obituary index is something that's included within Ancestry Library Edition. This is normally something you would have to pay for separately, but they include that in our subscription, so you can look at the actual obituaries. wills and probates. This one's pretty exciting. This is Henry Flagler's will. Oh, nice. So here, again, I'm going to go ahead and click on the record where we can actually see. There you go. If you have some time on your hands, you can read Henry Flagler's will. There it is. Okay, good. So, like I said, we are getting close to the end of the presentation, so I'm going to scroll down and see if I can take a look at some questions. Oh, so far I don't see any questions, just some comments that, yay, Library Edition includes World Explorer. Yes, it's very good for finding some of those international records. I was looking closely at my chart one day, and I realized that I have an immigrant in every generation going back. Doesn't matter if it was something fairly immediately, like from my grandparents, but even from like 7 generations ago, there was at least one immigrant in that generation. So the international records do become very important. At some point, you are going to have an immigrant ancestor. So finding out where they came from, that's a whole nother mystery that's fun to solve. And I'm not yet really seeing any other questions, so we still have about 10 more minutes. I might go through and just take a look at a couple of more things. Got a couple of more interesting results. Again, you also want to be very careful looking at the preview. So I've got a Henry Flagler here who died in 1969 in Pinellas County, Florida. I know that's not my guy, so I'm not even going to click on this one. Oh, city directories. Let's see if we can find the right Henry Flagler for a city directory. I recently had an email question from a patron that we were able to answer with a city directory answer. Nope, I don't see that in there. That's okay. What we can also do is we can narrow down our results over here on the left. So if we wanted specifically only things relating to birth, marriage, or death, I could click on that, and those are the only types of results that will come up here on the right. And I can further narrow it down if I just want marriage and divorce, because goodness knows Henry Flagler had quite a few of each. So we'll click here on marriage and divorce, and that will narrow down our results to just things pertaining to marriages and divorces. And again, we want to be very careful about which one we're clicking on, because the Henry Flagler we're looking for is not the one who was married in 1943 in Montana. Here we go. So, North Carolina marriage records. Oh, this is interesting. He married Mary Lily in North Carolina. Interesting. Okay. I've got a question here. Can you find wills from other countries? Question is coming from Melissa. Hello, Melissa. I'm happy to see you. Melissa is a librarian friend of mine from afar. I think I have found some wills from other countries. One of the things that we can do is go straight to, let's go do another all category search. Sometimes you will have to go to other resources. So let's do from our main search page without even typing anyone's information in. I'm clicking here on death, burial, cemetery, obituaries. We'll wait a moment for that page to come up. So I can filter by location. So I am going to go over, I had been looking for a, let's see here, and let's focus on, let's see here, burial indexes, deaths, church records. I don't think I have an immediate answer for that one. I believe you can, but it would take a little bit of digging. Like here's one, at least on parish registers. That's going to be burial records, not necessarily wills. Let me see if we can get anything a little bit more specific. Nope, I guess not. Okay, so let's try a different region. And this is the other thing that you're going to come across. Guys, a lot of these international records are written in different languages. Some of them have been indexed, most of them have not. You have to become very familiar with key genealogy terms in other languages. For instance, I have a dictionary of genealogy terms in German, so I know what to look for. Even if I don't speak German that well, I can at least pick out keywords like death, burial, marriage, that sort of thing. So again, I'm not entirely sure if you can get wills, but you can find comparable death records. Oh, and Melissa is saying she thinks she found them in the card catalog collection. Nice hint. So yes, well, here we are in the card catalog collection where you can do a searchable listing of the different records. Let me see here. Do we have any other questions? Oh, yes, here's a great one from Beverly. So, under normal circumstances, when life gets back to normal, yes, you can bring your laptop to the library in order to access this. Within library walls really means within the library network, the computer network. So if you're sitting in the library with your laptop connecting to our Wi-Fi, it will recognize you as being in our library. So you could do it from your own laptop in the library. Again, this is for under normal circumstances. Now, at least through the month of April, you can be at home with your laptop. But once life eventually gets back to normal and you can go inside the library, yes, you can bring your laptop with you. And let's see here. Do we have any other questions? I'm trying to scroll through, but I've just realized I only see the most recent ones. I don't see some of the older questions. Did anybody else have anything that you want to post in there? Any other questions you might have? Again, please go ahead in the comment or the chat field. Please go ahead and indicate if there's any other special programs you might want to see. I'd be happy to talk more genealogy stuff because, 45 minutes went by really quickly. So if there's ever any specific genealogy topics you might want to see as a presentation, note that in the chat field. What else did I want to mention? Let's see here. Let me go ahead and... Nope, that's the wrong button. Let me type this again. Okay. So otherwise, I just want to thank you all for joining me today. This has been a lot of fun. I enjoy talking about genealogy. I really love sharing our different library resources that we have. I want to make a special thank you to Miss Margaret, who has been helping from her own home. She's been answering some of your questions on here. I will be here next week, Tuesday at 3 p.m. We're talking about the Gale Health and Wellness Database. That's another database that I love, and I'm really excited about sharing that one with you. We're in a time right now where health information, correct health information is very important, and it's very easy to find incorrect health information online. So I'm going to be showing you a database that has authoritative articles from reliable medical sources. So when you're looking for health information, you know that it's coming from a fairly accurate place. And again, every weekday at 3 o'clock, we'll be talking about adult virtual programs, Monday through Friday, St. Johns County, Facebook Live, 3 p.m., fun adult virtual programs. And I did create one more little special slide right there. So thank you, everybody. Whoops, no. Yeah, there we go. Thank you for joining us. I am very thrilled that you were able to come here today, and I'm very thrilled I was able to present this to you. So everybody have a wonderful day. Take care and be well. Thank you.